Okay. Hi Megan. How are you?
Hanging in there. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm a bit tired for sure, but I'm trying to keep it together.
Hard out here.
Thank you for being a part of this. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay. Um, we're gonna start with the breathing exercise first. Um, I forget what type of exercise this is called. Um, but we're going to inhale for 4 for the first time, hold. Exhale for 8. We're gonna do it 3 times.
Love
Okay.
it.
Close your eyes. Okay. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Let go. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale as much as you can. Hold. Exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Inhale as much as you can. Hold. Let go. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. How was that
Love,
for you?
lovely.
Cool. Okay. Now that we've done our breathing exercise, we're going to do a little bit of a word association game. Um, so it's going to go, I'm going to say one word, and then you're going to respond with another. So I'm say, when I say blank, you say blank. Okay. So first one, when I say calm, what do you say?
Mind.
When I say insanity, what do you say?
Mind.
When I say spirituality, what do you say?
Higher self. Can I say two words?
It can be a hyphen.
Okay.
When I say government, what do you say?
Row.
Ruh-roh.
Row.
Um, when I say curiosity, what do you say?
Thank goodness. Oh, that's two words. That's definitely two words. Curiosity. Oh, the next thing was yes, please. Um, yes.
Yes. When I say community, what do you say?
Also yes.
When I say funny, what do you say?
Trying.
Trying.
I'm trying to be funny.
Lastly, when I say happy, what do you say?
Also trying.
Hmm. I like the repeats. Interesting. Um, I usually start with that one just as a way because I love word association games. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like they stump me every time, and I'm always like, I can't come up with a good enough word. Maybe that's my perfectionism, you know?
Yeah.
So, where that comes from, or that com a question comes from, is more so I feel like I've been battling with a lot of maybe repressed thoughts, maybe confusing thoughts that I feel like I sometimes suppress, and there's all these underlying emotions that I've been having with everyday news, everyday life, cloudy days or whatever. Um, and I thought it would be cool to see kind of what the reflection would be if that's something that if any underlying thoughts come through.
Mm.
I wanted to ask, is there any thoughts that you feel like you have that have been coming up recently that you haven't been able to express?
Well, first, I just want to say I think that's a really great little exercise to start off with right after like a little meditative breathing exercise, because I think that grounds you, and then it also helps you to the word association aspect of it, then helps you to, I think, just kind of embrace your thinking and like what comes your intuition. And then also like helps you just to hopefully not censor and like kind of get you into that mindset to not, you know, repress, like you said, and to enable like kind of a flower state, if you will. Even if you cheat with a couple extra hyphens or
Hmm.
like I did. Excuse me. But in terms of things that have been on my mind that I haven't, is it kind of like things that have been on my mind that I haven't been able to kind of bring to the surface? Is that what you're?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think plenty. I was actually I do morning pages, which are like 3 pages every morning is a very loose term. And like where you're just kind of dumping what's on your mind onto the page. I typically have been doing that every day, but this past week I literally have just like not had the time and and just like needing to find ways to edit my days so that I have more time to do things I needed to get done this past busy week. And I did morning pages for this first time in a week, and I just was like, oh, I'm rusty. I can feel it. Like it's a muscle. I don't use it. You lose it kind of feeling. But so that brought up, honestly, just like the fact that like I haven't been able to make space for um those morning brain dumps, which I think are really influential. A part of my morning pages also is like doing what's called like you do an affirmation for yourself and then you do a blurt, which is like, we're full of negative thinking all the time. Like that's, unfortunately, how brains work. And so to combat that, you write down a blurt, which is that response to your affirmation that's negative. That is just like, say you write, like, I'm proud of myself. The blurt maybe is like, I'm not capable of doing what I need to do. And then you follow up with another affirmation to reframe that blurt. And so uh, I honestly find that those are hugely helpful for combating that negative thinking and, realizing that higher self and who you want to be, it really matters. And I haven't been able to do that. And I honestly have been feeling that, especially with the news lately and the numbing of like having to, be like go, go, go. So yeah, I think that's how I would respond to that question anyway.
That's so interesting. I've definitely been like against morning pages, like just not as a practice specifically or like a concept, but more so like I cannot dump in the morning. I'm not the type of person like I have to defrost for a little bit or m maybe mold back because my brain for some reason like I don't sometimes I like writing in the afternoon, but mostly it's like a thing I do like when the sun goes down. I think that's just like when my brain kind of lights up. Um but my other question usually that follows is like, do you feel comfortable expressing these feelings? Because I feel like sometimes I can like literally feel myself tense up when I am approaching certain feelings, and I feel like pages can be a way of expressing that. But is there any type of like feeling that you or friction that you feel that may be like normal, but you feel like this keeps coming up?
I'm sure there is, I think there's only so much you can, I mean, I like to be a fairly self-aware person, but like I think ultimately there's only so much you can know about what's going on in there. And at the moment, I would say I've done a lot of work to be more comfortable. I've done a lot of work to be like more confident and comfortable in my skin and with my emotions. I've always been somebody who has held a lot of emotions. I'm a Pisces Cancer, so you kind of just are that way. I think a little bit by nature when you're water everywhere. So emotions don't scare me so much. But I think writing has, frankly, as a visual artist primarily, writing is something that I've always, for many years, and also as somebody who is dyslexic, reading and writing have been a little bit scary for me in the past, and I've done lots of work to reframe that and like create a new narrative around that. And that has helped tremendously. I think morning pages have been a big part of that. Just to not hold on to like gripping so tightly to these ideas of what writing is and what it looks like, and having more of an expansive lens has helped me to, not be so controlling or fear-based.
Yeah. As a fellow dyslexic, I feel I feel like for some reason writing has never exactly scared me. I which is crazy because I definitely feel writing is the hardest part in terms of navigating my dyslexia. I feel like my comprehension for reading isn't bad, but writing I definitely feel like I get tripped up the most. But it's great because we have autocorrect now, so that really does help. But yeah, it is tricky trying to understand like your brains through words and like I feel like because I love writing so much, I bring it up to everybody. And people really are sometimes resistant to that. And I think that's always interesting to me. And I think it's also kind of like evident of the fact that when we're in school, we're taught to have like complete unbiased, very sterile ways of writing, which is so stupid. I'm
Well,
curious
like,
to
what does that
think,
mean? Like,
right? Oh my God, I was thinking about the other day. It was like I was thinking about writing something in second person perspective, or yeah, I think so. Like when you say you,
mhm.
and I was like, this is such a no-no from how I was taught to write in like high school, being like I and then you, because that's supposed to seem like it's not supposed to be an opinion. Um, but I'm curious to understand like if you're fighting against these or trying to reveal these ways that you can express yourself, are there any things that you've been feeling like you're more capable of now that you're like getting older, or there's something that you're more coming into? Because I feel like, even doing this for me, interviews is something that I've realized that I've been capable of and coming into, and I recognize that like a lot of people these are very transformative times, and I'm curious to know what is something that's coming up that you didn't know you were capable of before.
Yeah, I think I was just talking about this, and so maybe that's why it's top of mind. But in terms of like things that I'm realizing that I've grown in confidence, and I think that's a great question because it's important for all of us to realize that we all grow in confidence with something, and that like awareness creates further confidence in that confidence, but also in your ability to try new things, which I think it's very much proven that like exposing yourself to discomfort of learning new things is like incredibly good for your brain and for like aging. And so I think, as an artist, I believe and I think I am not alone in this thinking. I think it's a fairly common understanding that like as artists you have to fail and you get used to failure, especially as a more of a fine artist, like it's often the long con, and there's a lot of rejection, and there's a lot of like just throwing your name in the hats and never knowing what's going to land. And so you just have to put yourself out there a lot, and that builds a resiliency that I think is really formative and influential as just like a human being, and not just as an artist, but it has like benefits all around, if you will. But to get back to your question, I would say that um, confidence, that like specifically an example for myself that comes to mind through trial and error would be in facilitation. I run, as you know, anti-capitalist artist book club in Portland, Oregon, and it has been an amazing. It's our third year, and it's been incredible. It's been like definitely stretching myself in ways that I both enjoy and also are challenging. It's definitely something that I felt equipped enough, though, to take on as a facilitator, as an organizer, and as an artist. But it's definitely was like, a wild dream and like something that I didn't know how it would land and who would show up and how it would be received and what feedback would be given. And honestly, I feel like yes, it was started this thing and it was scary, but beginning something, I can't help but feel like if you're beginning something, it's not coming from nowhere. You're not reinventing a wheel. You're from long lineages of work and labor that, you've hopefully taken in and that's why you want to do the thing in the first place, right? So I can't help but attribute, that beginnerness of it all to also like clearly having examples or, being aware of other people who have done something similar, asking other people questions about going. I never had been even a part of a real like book club before. So, there was a learning curve, but in some ways, like it was a fresh start. Anywho, I've grown a lot more confident in my abilities to facilitate and my ability to hold hard conversations and, be in awkward sometimes like, um, conflict moments that we resolve through through care and through, really active listening. And I don't know, it's just been such a, rewarding endeavor, if you will. And also a huge confidence boost in my ability to know that like I can do hard things.
Yeah. I literally, can you hear my dog?
I wish.
My mom got me this like little thing. I forget, I don't know where it's at, but it's like you can do hard things. And my mom always is like,
You
my dog
can?
is barking.
Oh,
Sorry.
I can't
But
hear.
yeah, my mom is always saying that to me because I feel like I've always been somebody who like I've been a quitter. I I feel like but it's I feel like I had a lot of shame about quitting for a while and now I'm like sometimes quitting can be freedom. Um but I feel like there's definitely some type of fear that comes with not thinking that you're capable of something or that you're it's you I feel like there's a guilt that comes with fear sometimes.
Mhm.
Um I like what you said about like facilitating because that is definitely such a powerful position, not necessarily in the terms of like holding power over others, but more so like empowering and like seeing collective power happen. Um, what is your relationship to failing in collectivism? Like, have there been times where you're like, oh, maybe I'm facilitating this thing, or maybe I am like trying to make community work, but this is just not working. You know, because you can be like, this is icky. I'm not doing this properly. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I totally know what you mean. It's like there's definitely moments where like you're just like, oh, group project, no. But because like in school, for instance, like that's where we really first learn like what group projects are. And like I think school though is there's beautiful things and also not so beautiful things about education, especially in the States that, really encourages competitiveness, encourages perfection, encourages dominant culture practices that I think are fairly toxic, at least where we're at now. And I think for me, I I just know that getting messy and making mistakes, because I luckily had the magic school bus growing up, is essential for transformation and that imperfection is to be embraced. I like to say that I'm a recovering perfectionist. I definitely have more than dabbled in a need to, or feeling like I need to have control over my environment, my space, and to a degree, like there's healthy amounts of that, especially like in your own home life, like making sure that you have a safe haven if you're capable of building a space for yourself that you love and can come home to, and if you can take a bath, that kind of thing. But like in the world, it's all just practice. And it all is just, and with practice, it's going to be complicated. And I think in part just because of my honestly upbringing and identity, frankly, as a mixed race person, my identity is complicated. My body is a thing of like, oh, this is too many things going on, like people don't understand like questioning who I am all the time, and I get it. Like my identity is not that identifiable immediately, and I've had to live with that for my whole life. And I think because of that though, it has given me a superpower for being with and holding complexity and nuance. And I think it ultimately is a gift that is very necessary in all of us to be able to hold. And so I recognize that like because of my identity, it is inseparable from my worldview and like how I engage with good trouble. And so for me, I think yeah, working in collectives and trying to bring something into the world, like especially with artists, like there's a lot of visionaries, and that's just one role though. Like there's many roles that we all can play. I'm fairly action oriented, and so like if someone's like shows interest in like maybe they like want to like this is just an example, but someone I knew in the book club that I run wanted to do an imagination workshop around writing because in our conversations, it was clear that people struggled with their imagination. And that's a crucial part for revolution and for change and transformation. And so, they had wanted to do that for a long time, but just like didn't have support in that at all. It was just themselves. And so I was like, I'll help you. Like, let's do this. I'll pay you. Like, I have grant funds. Like, let's roll, and it was just it lit them up. And it was such a beautiful thing to witness. And I was like, it was such a low lift. I'm just like, I just had to find a space and like they could print their workbook zine. And it was just like, let them have autonomy, but also support. And it was such a beautiful offering. And I think sometimes you feel like something, it's something new, it's like going to be daunting, but it just takes small little steps. I have to remember that too, though. Like I forget that myself. So, but ultimately to accomplish like messy or co-organized group projects, like it's about the small steps to get to that end result, hopefully, that you're picturing. But again, I have to remember the small steps are important, and I also have to remember to enjoy the small steps. I think that's something that is easy to forget as somebody who can be somewhat goal-oriented and needing to refocus more so on the process also, and not just the product, I think is an important thing to remember.
Hmm. It's funny. I did my interview with Elspeth on Saturday, and we were talking about the same exact thing, the perfectionism and how it's a byproduct of white supremacy. And like, I have to tell myself that. And like, there's definitely things that I intellectualize, and I'm like, oh, like I know this is a part of this larger scale thing that of systems, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, when it's time for me to create, I do have that like, it's not the best possible thing ever.
I know
Um,
it's very much something that pains me, but it can be a non-starter, and I ain't got time for that.
right.
Oh.
None of us do, like
We gotta get
literally.
started.
Hmm. I have a couple questions kind of along the lines of about being stumped in general.
Hmm.
Um, One of them is I want to ask, like, what do you think is wrong about the way we interact with each other now? Because we know we talked about collectivism and how we want to pursue that in everyday activities and give that space. But there's times when that happens, you're like, oh no, like this person is coming with a weird energy, or I'm coming with a weird energy. Is there something that you c come in contact with a lot, but you're like, this needs to change?
Okay, so let me repeat the question and make sure I'm getting it right. Um, in terms of like collective work, like what are some of the like ways of like strategies, if you will, of like overcoming conflict? Is that kind of what you're wanting to get at?
It's more so the question I have down It's like, is there what could be the or what are the problems that you see in everyday conversations with like coworkers, friends, and families? And I feel like I was asking it in maybe a larger scale, but I really do mean like interpersonal, like there's things that come up when I talk to my dad or a friend where I feel like I don't know if I really feel comfortable saying this, but then also have to reflect on like why I don't feel comfortable. And is there anything that's coming up in everyday interactions where you're like I'm seeing a problem with, if that makes more sense?
Yeah, so not the strategies to overcome the problem, but what are the problems? Yeah,
Yeah, basically.
got you. Okay. A few things, plenty of things. I think that we all are coming at all of the things from so many different directions. I see time and time again, though, people assuming that we're not, assuming, and I think that's in part like a coping mechanism, and understandably so, that we want simplicity and we want ease and we want things to be like everyone to be on the same page. And these expectations, as you know, they talk about in Buddhism, are like a root of a lot of our struggles, frankly. And these assumptions that, like even in like progressive circles, there's a lot of assumptions that we're all like agree on everything. And it's like, actually, no. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think that that's actually something to highlight that, we have a very diverse, even within, like small circles of friendship, even that like there's going to be conflict, there's going to be disagreements, and we're not taught to like like sort those out. We're not the conflict resolution is not something that like people really want to really be trained on, but it's actually an incredibly important resource for having impactful conversations. And I have definitely benefited from, understanding more about conflict resolution and also understanding that like diversity is something in a room is important to acknowledge. I think power and privilege also exists in every conversation, and that is at play, and that's going to impact what is being shared and how safe people feel to share. And you have to move at the speed of trust, right? But when we're talking about like interpersonal things that are like close and familial, whether it's a dad, a best friend, that kind of thing, often those are built very slowly, right? And event, especially with friends, but with a dad, that's different, but like it's from the jump. But like, I was just talking about this actually about how sometimes with people that you know really well, there's sometimes less care taken in those conversations because there is so much trust already been built, already been had from like connecting on, softer subjects like favorite movies, your tastes in music, going out dancing or whatever it may be, like whatever has brought that friendship or that connection together. If it's long standing, sometimes we can just bypass care, in some ways, And so I think that is one of the tricky parts of interpersonal problems. And I also think we're all pretty numb at this point to, a lot of things by design because of systems of oppression, but because of institutional, hierarchies and garbage. And so we numb ourselves. We find ways to cope with the horrors of daily life. We all have these computers that we're looking at and screens that we're looking at all the day, and have access to news and the horrors at our fingertips. Our brains are not meant to hold all of this. And so it's valid, the coping mechanism, it's valid, the numbing, but it's important to also remember that we really don't know what each of us are going through, and the importance of, if we're coming at a situation like a hard conversation, the importance of like care and of making sure that we're all parties are in a state that's like regulated and that we're feeling regulated in our bodies. There's a lot of detachment with our bodies that happens, and I think that is part of the numbing that adds to intensity or to tension and to unnecessary conflict. So, yeah, checking in with one another, asking questions, being curious also. Anyway, I'm getting into strategies,
No, it
but
works. Yeah, I see how it ties in. To restart things, we're gonna play another little game.
ooh,
We're gonna do a bit of a word association game again, and I'm going to say, what do you want to replace blank with? And you're gonna say what the a bit of an ad libs, I guess.
mm-hmm.
So when I say, what do you want to replace Trump with?
Oops, I'm already not good at this. Okay, I'll just keep it short and funny. Dolly Parton.
Okay. Honestly, yeah, I can see that. She's more well liked. What do you want to replace the Constitution with?
You asking the hard questions. Um, Something that we all create together and is like updated and like has a like diverse range of voices and people who care about land. How about that? Uh,
What's, I'm sorry.
No,
Um, what do you want to replace iPhones with?
ooh, books,
What do you want to replace? I'm trying to think off the dome. What do you think we should replace screens with?
books.
Books, yeah. Um, what do you want to play replace ice with?
Resources that would teach people about their rights.
I love the almost like desperation because that's really where we're at right now. I'm kind of like, oh, we gotta. I was just thinking before we started this, I was telling Zoe about this like problem I've been having, but I was like, I feel like we keep using the same quotes for things whenever stuff gets hard. Like there's always like a little George Orwell quote or like an Audre Lorde quote or a James Baldwin quote, and I'm like sick of the quotes, and I wish we could replace it with actual reading or like I feel like there's so much like things we're doing to make resistance or revolution with make it aesthetic. And I'm like, that's something I'm like trying to envision what I want to replace with because I am kind of like we're hitting a wall with the quotes thing. Like every day on Instagram I'm seeing a quote and I'm like, this isn't cutting it anymore. Like we need to do deep dives on like why this quote and its context matters.
Right. I think, yes, I think that is very much a problem is that it's taken out of context. And it's like, what was James Baldwin's life like? Like, I'd much rather hear an interview than like just like a snippet that like people will just like, if it doesn't look good, they just keep going. And the emphasis, yeah, on like having things be aesthetic and be like pe pleasing is understandable and is one way, but it's not the only way. And it is, yeah, like I totally hear you. Like definitely frustrating.
Yeah. Um, okay, let's go into our imagination bag. The
Mm.
next question is, what do you imagine in your perfect world post all of this? Post the political landscape, post America, maybe, post whatever, state you're in right now.
Yeah. Um, I would love to see more connectivity in terms of like community care and like people like neighbors knowing each other and like people, having like going to the farmers market and like caring about where their food comes from and like I luckily live in a place that is fairly progressive, but like there's so much work still to be done and like that could be done and like fear that didn't have to exist. And I think, people are afraid right now to leave their homes, right? Like like there's the our standards are so low right now. And yeah, I would just love for people to, just care about their neighbors. I care about like making sure people are safe and more than safe, like abundance mindset, baby. Like I want everyone to feel like they have a place and that they belong and that they can have autonomy. Like that's what I dream of.
Feel the same way. I always have to remind myself of the abundance mindset because I feel the opposite all the time. How do you think we can accomplish that? Is there any, we talked about strategies before. Is there anything you were like, we need to lock in on the specific thing?
I think we have to, this is one of those like, teeters into those kind of like quotey businesses that we were just talking about. But like I do think we have to like get more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm.
Um, I think that too many people are um, comfortable in their comfort and aren't stretching themselves. Understandable. I get it. Like we all have varying capacities. We're all, just trying to keep our heads above water at times, it feels like. And like I think there's a resiliency that so many people of color have to just tap into and lock into all the time that people with power and privilege don't. And that is so impactful for like how people are able to show up for not just themselves, but also community. And yeah, I think people need to be more okay with the mess. People need to be more okay with complexity. People are so preoccupied and it's like I'm in a lot of different circles where we, have very vulnerable conversations and I design my life to encourage that. And what I witness time and time again are people who are really like afraid of being vulnerable, of feeling very alone, feeling very like much that they need community but don't know how to start and like how to build that. And it can be just so overwhelming that it's just like again one of those non-starters. And again, it's just like those small incremental decisions and choices and putting yourself out there. And sometimes it does involve baby steps that people just like don't want to do. But like we all need to stretch ourselves a little bit to, based off of like what our capacity is. And that's different for everybody. But yeah, I think that's a major strategy for, making change.
Hmm. Yeah, I like what you keep saying about the non-starters because that's something I constantly struggle with every day. I'm like, I don't know how to start, and I feel like my sister keeps being like, when talking about her creative practice, she's always like, sometimes when you take a break and you're like ready to start something again, you kind of feel like you have to start from scratch. But the reality is that you probably are starting from the middle, like you're just in the middle of the process. You're in the middle of the process when you're taking a break, and you don't have to start from ground zero, It's like it's something you have to convince yourself out of because you're just like, there, I have this warped idea of what it means to be productive or what it means to be valuable or make sense. Another question I ask is, what is there something that you feel like you're holding back? What is one of your non-starters or a thing that you think you have to change in order to do resistance work? And I've been saying, like, for me personally, my social anxiety is one. Like, I can talk to people, but like being in groups freaks me out. And I think it's something, as I've always been sh more shy, but also the pandemic happened and being in groups sometimes can be scary. What is something that you personally feel like you need to work on?
Um, yeah, I mean, it can be scary. And you don't know what you're gonna get. Life's a box of chocolates. But I think something that I What should I work on? Well, the thing, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like I feel like I've come a long way in like just like my own personal growth, and there's always room for more in my opinion, and that is something that in some ways actually holds me back a little bit, is that I'm always trying to grow and like heal and like be aware of myself, and sometimes like that tinkering of my like brain or my life, and trying to better myself can actually like just be exhausting. And like I think not trying to like be a better version, like the best version of myself. Like, what even is that? Like, I think sometimes, as much as I talk about being messy and making mistakes, like it's still, I still have like the recovering perfectionist in me. And I think the constant seeking to like, you know, get better, be more knowledgeable, seek information, like researching and like seek like, these leveling up of selves can ultimately be a distraction from just like accepting myself for who I am, and therefore accepting others for where they're at too. Because I think if anything from like studying abolition, I think a big takeaway, one of the big takeaways for me is like to not think in binaries of like perfect victim, perfect, criminal. Like there's definitely that unlearning that I have to catch myself with. And that binary thinking of good and evil, and like that there is a good or there is a should and there is a bad and there is a shouldn't, um, is contributes, whether I know it or not, to feeling both like I'm capable enough, but also being frustrated with others who I feel like are maybe not meeting my expectations or are frustrating me. Because, as we've discussed, like group projects are challenging. And it's important to give yourself grace in order to be able to give other people grace. And so I think that's where my mind goes for that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you answered a lot of the questions in that one. Because yeah, I have been curious and see how people envision what how they incorporate themselves in and add themselves into collective work, because I feel like a lot of times there's finger pointing, and then I feel like even I get frustrated like you said, but I forget that there's things that I do have to change about myself, but also I don't have to optimize my life. I don't have to look at everything I do wrong as a moral failing, because that's also puritanical. Is that how you say the word? That's
Yeah.
also like paralyzing, is being like, oh, this and that is wrong. You need to work on yourself. Because sometimes working on yourself is just not what it's like to just chill. Like you can't chill out if you're constantly working on yourself, and there has to be ways to be like, enough. I'm not trying to change the world
Yeah.
in every second of my day,
Right.
and that is okay.
Right. Enough. Like enough of that, because I am enough. You are enough. And when we accept that, can we show up?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go into the last three questions. This is kind of a joint question. We've talked about the world, kind of micro or macro. Is it microcosms? Is that a word?
Mhm.
Or macrocosms of all the resistance work and just the world around us. And I want to finish off with some individual questions.
Okay.
So first question is, what is something that you want to tell your future self?
Mm. I was actually just thinking about my little self right before this call. So I don't know if that's gonna be a question in a minute, but but okay, let me like not think about little self, but like future self, how if like 80-year-old me's hopefully I get there. If 80-year-old me is like looking back at, current me, I will have hoped that I lived in alignment with who I wanted to be, that I didn't take myself too seriously, but that I was still living through a lens of like care and liberatory love.
Mm.
Because that's something that somebody who was 80 years old taught me when I was a kid.
Mm.
And it has had hugely lasting effects. And if I can live in that and like be an example of that, then that is success to me.
I'm taking that liberatory love and I'm running with that for sure. That's a good one.
It changes lives. It
Yeah.
changed my life. And it's something that like has created like my upbringing was tumultuous for sure, but I still know that I have like a strong foundation because of liberating love that I received and have to give back to others
Mm.
because I've been the product and received the process over my life as growing up that really like just helps me find an inner strength that I know I'm lucky to have. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. You cheated a little bit, but I'll ask the next question is what's something that you want to tell your past self?
I, pred I predicted I'm a wizard. I would love to tell, sorry, can you just say it one more time and so I don't have this like little wizard thing?
But I thought that was so funny. Okay, I'll repeat it again. What is something that you want to tell your past self?
Um, I would love to tell my past self that like I feel like I'm on Drag Race when they like ask the I don't know if you watched Drag Race,
I
but they
haven't, no.
at the end they always ask like the like top three winners like what would you tell your they hold up a picture of them as a baby. And so I'll just do that right now. Here's me. I would like to tell myself that uh I am gonna be so proud of like who I become, and I like I have such a bright spirit, and I'm gonna be shy because I don't know where I belong, but I do belong and I am enough. And you're going to take that like struggle and turn it into diamonds, baby. Like you're going to be somebody who like has to like observe the world and figure out that there's a lot of propaganda and there's a lot of lies
Mm.
going on. And, you'll absorb it, but you'll also question it. And you're going to, you know, come out on the other side of it like a really well-rounded human being that is going to channel that fear and scarcity and turn it into a really beautiful life.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. All right, last question is what is something that you think you need to hear right now?
Hmm. Abundance. Abundance, baby.
Yeah, I need to hear that myself. It's so interesting because it's interesting to see how easily you came to that question because a lot of people they're like like that stumps them because I do think it's hard to imagine someone like your own self talking back to you
Oh, I
because
I talk to myself all the time.
same. But there is a severance that I feel like we're taught to not connect with our own selves and be like, well, what I need right now doesn't matter because it's not available, you know? So, and it is coming from a scarcity mindset. So, yeah, abundance is a great answer. Okay, that's the end of the interview. Thank you so much. Is there anything you'd want to plug for the people who are Hold on, I messed up. Last question. Actually, last question is, what is something you want to tell someone who's watching this who might be going through the same things and need to hear something that resonates with them?
Ooh, so you're basically asking for an affirmation.
Mm,
And I love affirmations. I think I've started to do them recently, and may I just say that is what that person needs to hear. Like to have a practice of affirming yourself, um, naming the negative response that comes pops up in your mind when you have that affirmation, and then reframing that into another new affirmation. That's just honestly a tool that I would like to share with that person, because we all need our own little cheerleaders, and we all need to be that for ourselves and for others. And so doing it for yourself will help you to do that for yourself more often, and then also do that for others as well. So just in the context of our conversation, I would just impart that resource. I like resource sharing. So, that tool of, affirming yourself, because everyone deserves affirmation, everyone. And then honoring the fact that you are not your thoughts, but you're having them. And so, there's going to be an objection to that affirmation, which is otherwise known as a blurt, if you will. Name that blurt, but then immediately reframe it, reword it into a new updated affirmation. That's what I would tell people to do.
okay, I need more blurts in my life. I'm gonna rewatch this and be like, okay, I have to write everything down what Megan said so I can learn how to do my morning pages.
It's just such a
Um,
great way to end the morning pages, and a great way to like, go about your day or your night, and carry with you like your own like, peace, inner peace, so that you can be, I think, the best version of yourself, and reach the potential that you have within you.
period. Nice. Amazing as always, Megan. Thank you so much for joining. Is there anything you want to share, promote? You have a booming artist career right now, so if you want to link anything,
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a delight as always. I really appreciate you and for this time together. And I thought, your questions were great, and I, love yapping. So heck yeah. But I am an artist. I have an Instagram. It's Megan Chin Art. And then also, if you are in Portland, Oregon, I also run that Anti-Capitalist Artist Book Club, otherwise known as AABC, which is also on Instagram, AABC_PDX, if you're in Portland, Oregon.
cool. Thank you, Megan, once again.